Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawkes here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon to be notified anytime we put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our lovely channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below. Today we have a very special guest, another man of the cloth. We had Elwyn on, Elwyn Crockett. And so, is he Archbishop? Bishop? I don't know. He's somewhere up. He's got a title. I'm sorry, Elwyn. He'll be watching as well. And now we've got Father Chris. Hi, Father Chris. How are we?
Hey Russ, it's great to be here. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, really glad to get you on, man. Really glad. How's I mean, you know, anyone in sort of, I'll say your business, but anyone sort of where you're talking to lots of people, this last 12 months must have been just crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you know, it's been very different in that, you know, the lockdown and everything else. But in other ways, my job hasn't changed in some ways because you know, whereas some things I can do virtually, there are other things. Whereas, you know, as a chaplain in the army, where you have to be there for somebody. So, you know, if somebody's relationship was broken down, it's very difficult to help them deal with that or help walk them through that merely over the computer screen. You've got to, you know, social distancing, of course, but you've got to be there for them to be a listening ear and help pick up the pieces. Some of my lads have been in the regiment that I'm with at the moment. They've been, you know, working on what's called op rescript, which is sort of military aid to civilian authority. So supporting paramedics in various parts of Wales and so forth. They've been doing so. Going up to see them and visit them and you know, bring some morale, bring a listening ear, and just be you know, a presence really. So in some ways my job has changed during this last 12 months. In other ways it hasn't. You've just had to think a bit more out the box as to how you can do what you do to support your soldiers, because soldiers are just brilliant. I love working with soldiers, but at the same time keep everyone safe. Yeah,
no, I can imagine. Also, you're right. I can just. It's all about, it's even more so in terms of the army, isn't it? It's very about adapt and carry on, isn't it? It's how you adapt in situations. So even more so in terms of trying to provide them with the support, and that makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. I mean, you know, it's been a testing time for everyone, hasn't it? And hopefully, fingers crossed, things are starting to get to the other end. Hopefully, so. But West Ham have kept us busy, haven't they?
It's been an amazing season, hasn't it? You know, I mean. Honestly, if you'd have said to me beginning of the season that we're going to be where we are at the moment, in the mix at least for Europe, hopefully we can push through and get there. Who knows? But if you'd have offered me even top 10 beginning of the season, I'd have taken that all day long. Particularly, you know, because we're quite a shaky start to the season, didn't we?
Yeah, very much so.
And to be where we are now, yeah, it's massively just you look forward to watching games now. You know.
It's so true. It's almost like when one game finishes, you're ready for the next one already. And now, like, because obviously we're only sort of playing basically each week, like the weekend. There's no midweek games for us really. It's a bit excruciating because, you know, particularly when we're on that roll, we want to keep going. We want to keep going. And actually, to be honest, this break, so to speak, obviously Sunday, not playing until obviously. We're playing tomorrow because it's going on Sunday, so we'll play tomorrow. So we've had like a week and a bit, you know, recovery. We sort of need it, I think, to be honest, to get hopefully a few people back.
Yeah.
So
it's a chance to recoup, especially with some of the injuries we've had, and you know, hopefully if we can get some of our spine back, really, because most of our spine has been out at points, isn't it, towards this last part. If we get some key figures back, then who knows?
I think it's with so many. Sorry, my computer's randomly turned on. I think with so many people, as you said, we had so many injuries out, haven't we? I think we've done bloody well to keep going, to be honest. Bloody well. So yeah, and we'll see wherever we finish, isn't it? Yeah, if it's Champions League, it's great. If it's Europa, it's conference, as you said at the beginning of the season. If someone said that to you, you'd have bitten their arm off.
Yeah,
wouldn't you? Absolutely bitten your arm off. But no, it's been a great season, wherever happens, and hopefully, you know, if Boris's roadmap works okay, the last game of the season, we should get some fans in there, which would be lovely to sort of finish off the season, so to speak. What has been the weirdest probably season ever in terms of it's just bizarre, isn't it? The whole thing's just really weird. So Chris, taking you back, so to speak, why West Ham? Why is it your club? I can see the shirt framed. I see the shirt you're wearing. The shirt. Why West Ham? Why is it your club?
Yeah, so I suppose really, if I'm being honest, it was support West Ham or be disowned. Where I grew up, I suppose there was a fair few West Ham fans around. Although my old man, my dad, he's a Chelsea fan, but we don't say too much about that. But my uncles, on both sides of my family are West Ham, and my mum's brother, who was like a big brother to me, huge West Ham fan. Probably my first words were "I'm forever blowing bubbles," but I didn't really get it until, although I used to sort of play football in the street and all the rest of it, I didn't really get it until I was probably about 8 or 9, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great deal like growing up, and my parents got me a West Ham shirt for Christmas. It was my first ever West Ham shirt. Do you remember the bucked one that was sponsored by BAC Windows?
Yeah.
1990, was it 1990 or 1991 season, where we got to the FA Cup semi-final. Quarter-final, wasn't it? When we were playing Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest one, yeah, the Nottingham Forest, yeah.
That one. I've been allowed to stay up and watch the highlights of the Everton game that got us there. It was the semi-final, and then watching that game, watching us play Forest, I was in tears, But at the same time, I was watching it with my granddad, and I was in tears. But at the same time, I was just absolutely mesmerised, and that was me. I knew that West Ham was my team, and I still look back on those days. Everyone gets nostalgic about the first year. They remember support the team you support, and it's been West Ham ever since. And I remember when I was a parish priest before I came in army chaplain, I was trying to convince my Sunday school that Jesus was a West Ham fan. But silly thing to do. But it's just been a huge part of my life, and That's probably a long answer to your question.
No, not at all. I mean, it's one of those things where it's interesting. That's why I always ask the same question, because everyone's story, although some are similar, they're not, because everyone slightly has a slight different twist. Or they come into it a little bit earlier, a little bit later in life, or I know you've seen a few of them. A lot of the sort of the foreign-based Hammer fans who are in God knows, all over the world, really, sort of just pick it, and some people, it's just a chance. They look their eyes up when their granddads ask them what team they support, and they've gone that one, and then 50 years later, they're still supporting the same club, and that's why I love all these stories. Everyone's slightly different, but once you're in, as you said, you're in, aren't you?
Yeah.
There's no turning back. No turning back.
That's it. And actually, it's always quite nice as well. Like, when you find other priests who are West Ham fans as well, and it's something quite special about that. It's always I suppose it's the same whatever job or whatever role you're doing. When you find something that you've got in common, and it ends up being football. As well as, and that's one of the great things about football. It is the beautiful game, because it does unite a whole lot of people. And sometimes I'll be away with the army, we'll be on an exercise, and there might be people from different nationalities, and the fact that you can play, you might not be able to necessarily understand each other's language or culture, even if you are speaking the same language. But the fact that you can play football, that's quite groundbreaking. That's
It's true, and it's the same. It's slightly similar, but obviously, when I go on holiday, I always end up bumping into a West Ham fan or someone who, because I literally, as I said, open up the suitcase and it's full of West Ham shirts, because they're easy to wear around the pool, aren't they? Really, and they'll always, as you said, it doesn't matter what nationality they're from, where they're from in the UK, maybe, or if they're based in Spain or Italy. It's that natural bond about football, and you just start talking. And my wife hates it. She hates it because she'll hear something, or she'll hear like someone with like a Cockney accent, and she'll just turn her eyes, knowing I'm going to be chatting to them about West Ham in about 10 minutes time, and I'll be their best mate. And then there'll be a holiday. Oh, where's John? Where's John? There's John. I've got to go and see John at the park. All that type of stuff. I love it, and it's something which bonds a lot of people together, whether it's and obviously even more so in recent times, it has bonded the fans together. I think actually that the events of the last couple of weeks has basically improved fan unity. Whether you're a Tottenham fan or an Arsenal fan or a West Ham fan or a Chelsea fan or Man City fan, everyone's bonded together about preserving the purity of the game, which is great, which is fantastic, isn't it? So it's an actual brilliant thing, and long may it continue, because we have on the channel we have different fans. They come on every day, sometimes on the lunchtime shows we do, and we have a chat, and Arsenal fans or Liverpool fans, and I think we are secretly I know we used to be everyone's second favourite team. I think we're back in that sort of role again. Do you know what I mean? It does seem that.
Yeah, I agree.
It does seem that. Do you remember your actual the first time you graced the Hallow, or you saw Upton Park?
Yeah, so the first time I was on a day trip to London, and I was like, I'd not been to a game yet or anything like that. And but I just wanted to see it, to stand outside and look up and see the bowling ground, see Upton Park, and you go, and there are people wearing West Ham shirts. There are, West Ham posters in the shops, and people are talking about West Ham. You pass in the street, and just feeling. I'm not going to describe it as a pilgrimage, because that it is different, but there was something that felt like home. That felt. That felt like these are my people.
Yeah.
And that leaves a massive impression on you, and it's quite special. That
it is. It's true. It is.
Yeah.
And I think even obviously that was happening. The last 18 months or 15 months or whatever it was. It's really exemplified, I think, what a special bunch of fans we are. Obviously, I'm in a very privileged position now, in that sort of, people invite me on a lot of Facebook groups and Twitter things and WhatsApp things, and you see, as soon as someone's down or someone's having a really rough time, within 20 minutes they've got they'll then respond like, I've just had 50 messages from West Ham fans, you guys are the best, and everyone pulls together, and it's that sort of East End spirit has come true in the last, very much so. A lot of people have had tragedy over the last sort of 12 months or so, and God, the West Ham fraternity comes up. It doesn't shock me anymore now, because I know we sort of pull together, or we've done a lot of stuff for the charity, for the food banks and various others. People in the Singapore Hammers and people like that, they're never going to step foot in Newham, but they donated a couple of £100 for the food banks, Ironsport food banks. I love it. It does get me a bit emotional, because I think it just makes me really proud to be a West Ham fan.
To my shame, I've not been to a game at the new stadium yet. Problem is that, really realistically, to get to a game, you've got to be a season ticket holder to get within a shout of getting a ticket. And with my role, and you don't know if you're going to be away, or obviously a lot of games now are on a Sunday. Well, that's
no, so, you're a little bit busy on a Sunday, aren't you?
I try to see if there's any sort of spare tickets going, and one day it'll happen. I'll get there eventually. I've seen it from the outside, and I've had a sort of walk around it, and a bit of a So it'll be interesting, I suppose, to see, does it have that same feel? I don't know. I've not seen.
It's different. It's different. That's the best way for me. That's what it is. It's a different feeling, because it's a different. It's not Upton Park. It's London Stadium. It's not twice the size, but near enough twice the size of Upton Park, really. And it's. And I've always seen, obviously I was very pro moving, because for me, I know infrastructure wise, Upton Park, there's no way at Upton Park you could do any social distancing, particularly now, the foresight of foresight in the pandemic, you know what I mean, in terms of the move, but it makes things a lot easier. But people forget things. I think people forget sometimes that when it used to rain and the district line went down, and you'd walk to Upton Park station and notice it was closed, and everyone had to turn around and trudge all the way back up Green Street and all the way down to Barking Station. Little things like that. Nowadays there's about 20 different ways you get to Stratford. It is different, and I think things take time. We were at Upton Park for 100 years near enough, and so although what's great is, obviously, when everyone goes back to the London Stadium, they'll have a team that they're proud of. Do you know what I mean? In the last sort of season, so it's and I think people will be more appreciative of the of football because they haven't had it for so long, and some people have been season ticket holders for 50, 60 years every day, every game, week in, week out, and they haven't had that for a year, and that's a huge part of their life, part of their release as well. So God, we're getting very deep, aren't we, Father? Oh, dear, Jesus. Oh, it's true. It's true. I think it's great, and it's a massive release for football, isn't it? For a lot of people, it's their break. That's when they can just go crazy and shout at referees and swear and drink and
That's just the
that's the shooter. That's the shooter. Jeez. Let alone the guys in Chav corner. Jeez. But yeah. It's very good. No, it's true. I love it. I love, and I can't wait for everyone to get back because it's horrible. It's great, I'm very privileged to be there, but it's horrible because you're not there. You can't see. It's not you can enjoy being there with anyone else.
Yeah.
So it is a weird time.
It's probably not a comparison at all, but during the height of lockdown, when even churches were closed, I was doing a lot of. So although I'm an army chaplain, I help out in civilian churches on Sundays. And for a while we had to switch to doing it virtually, to sort of recording yourself saying mass or what have you, and it was nice, and you were connecting with people because but it's not the same. I remember when churches were able to open again for worship, albeit reduced numbers and everything else. Just so I'm sorry for getting too deep, but celebrating mass and being able to physically see in front of you rather than just knowing they were watching on a camera screen was quite moving. And I imagine for a lot of people, being able to go back into football grounds or what have you will have another experience, if not more.
I totally agree. When we had I think 2,500 for the Man United game. There was like one game we had, and that was just. It was weird because and it was really emotional for 2,500 people because for the best part of a year you're playing music to just the journalists and that's what you're doing, but you hear them singing Bubbles back and it's like wow. And hopefully the Southampton game there's 10,000, and hopefully next season for the first games for our Champions League qualifier matches, for example, it's going to be it's a similar thing. I think it's going to be very emotional because also, again, we're getting very deep, but I love it. There's going to be a lot of people there who, for particularly the season ticket holders where they've sat next to the same people for a long time.
Yeah.
They may well have passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's going to be, and there'll be more people and it'll be different. And there's be people who would go, but they wouldn't go yet because, they might wait until to have things pan out and their own health. And, so it's going to be very emotional, I think. And also, and then it's Mark Noble's last season as well next season. So it's just literally piling it on, Father Chris, piling it on. He's piling it on. And obviously, when he lifts the Champions League Cup the Champions League trophy next season, having done the quadruple, move over City, we'll show how it's done. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, and hopefully, then all of this stuff will be but a chapter, but a bookmark in years to come. So it was easy when it was 30 odd degrees in the sun. You could just sit in the easy then, wasn't it? When it was pissing down the silt and snowy. Oh no, but it's easy when it's there. Right, let's talk about your Hammers 11, Chris. So basically, everyone we get on the channel, bar 3 people actually, have given an 11. So the idea is we pick an 11. You can, as I said to you, you can pick whoever you want, whatever criteria. It doesn't have to be the best. Sometimes it might be the worst, whatever, it's up to you. But the only rule is you must have been alive to have seen them play. So from you, obviously, we could go from the 90s, which is pretty much the same era as me, Chris. So I'm looking forward to this. So who's in goal? Who's in goal for the 11?
It's got to be Ludek McCloskey, who, again, when I first started watching West Ham, when I first started to understand what it was to be a West Ham fan, he was one of those kind of iconic characters, wasn't he? And I mean, I mean, he didn't always have a great game, but a lot of the times he had a really good game and pulled off some pretty acrobatic saves at points, and just one of those sort of figures. I suppose really people previous to our generation maybe had sort of similar maybe a similar sort of feeling towards someone like say Phil Parks. You know what I mean? In that they're sort of almost, who's going to be in your first 11? Well, your goalkeeper's definitely going to be. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
For our generation, I think Ludek McCloskey was that person who, who's going to be in your first 11. Well, it's got to be Ludo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's true. I know what you mean. And he sort of made, for a lot of people, he made such a big impact because he was, he was one of the first sort of foreign imports as well, really, as a goalkeeper. And again, they had Phil Parks, and obviously I wasn't around to see Phil play, but obviously he was a big, just a big mountain of a man. He obviously still is as well. Where Ludo came in and he was from a country that no one had really heard of. He clearly no one knew where it was because the song, it's nowhere near Moscow. Yeah, we're closer to Moscow than it is Czech Republic. But as Tony Gow said, it wouldn't really work if you said, I'm Ludek McCloskey. I come from near Prague. Doesn't work, does it? Doesn't work.
No.
And he was just so athletic. He was like a modern day goalkeeper. And no, he was great.
And quite brave, quite fearless at times too.
Yes.
At West Ham, we've always loved fearless players. that are gonna take a risk for the team. They're gonna get stuck in. And there were times when he no two ways about it, he got stuck in. I think it was also quite exciting because even though we didn't really know a lot about the Czech Republic, if we're being honest, the fact that he was in the mix of playing for his country, or if not playing for his country, we've got an international goalkeeper.
Yeah,
that was quite exciting.
It was, and I thought also because it was like McCloskey, like a little bit sort of like, as you said, a little bit unusual. We didn't necessarily know, didn't speak English as well when he joined as well. So obviously we've interviewed a lot of players who played with him, and it was quite funny in terms of the stories, getting involved, trying to explain to him the Christmas lunch, the Christmas dinners, and who had to dress up in fancy dress and all that type of stuff. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And he just didn't have a clue what was going on. I think it was Trevor Morley who interviewed him, and he said that they had to go around Chadwell Heath to find a fancy dress for Ludo, and the only one that was left was a medium-sized sailor's outfit, and so they had to but then Ludo had to go back to his wife to say, because obviously they didn't have mobile phones then, not readily available. So he had to go back to his wife, dressed as a sailor's boy, in a medium sailor's boy, to say he wasn't coming home for dinner. And he was in some limo with one Frank McAvenny's brilliant. I'm a similar age to you, Chris, and that era was, I love that era. That was my favorite era of being a West Ham fan. It really was. Just men were men. Men were men. You know what I mean? In terms of stories and no social media to curtail anyone's enthusiasm for a pint and stuff. And it was relatable. I always say football then was relatable, not what was it? Not aspirational. And now it's aspirational rather than relatable. They're all on 200 grand a week, aren't they? Now, Nice. Right. Okay. Anyway, Ludo in goal. That's right. Okay. Let's go to defence. Who's your first defender then, Chris?
So we'll go left. We'll go from left back to start off.
Yeah.
So left back, it's got to be Julian Dix, isn't it?
Yeah.
I loved watching Julian Dix play, and again, fearless. Do you know? I don't know if Julian Dix, say if he was, still of a playing age, I don't know if he'd be able to play in the modern game.
No,
because as you were just saying, I can't. I mean, I look at the Premier League today. It's a different, and you see some of the diving around that goes on, and some of the simulating that goes on. I mean, someone tackles them and they start rolling around like they've been shot.
It's true.
And we won't talk too much about the sending off the other week. But I just someone like Julian Dix, I can't name a sort of what we might call a footballing hard man that is in the Premier League today. Maybe down the EFL you might get some figures who you know, if your
I
team's
know
up
what you
against
mean.
that team and they got that figure, there's no sort of fear factor in that sense anymore. I'm not
No.
saying that football isn't, you know, needs that, but it has lost something with that.
Yeah.
You know,
I know exactly what you mean. I think it has lost something like that. I think, you know, with VAR and stuff as it is, as you said, it's almost like the players are scared to tackle or do anything like that because they're so worried. And I know what you mean about that hard man. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like it's really old fashioned, isn't it? I think that's why I think Craig Dawson sort of fits West Ham a little bit because he's sort of a bit of a throwback to that era. And I know exactly what you mean. Exactly what you mean. It's a shame because you want a pantomime villain as well. So you know, as well as your club having a hard man, you want the other teams to have a hard man. So they're the ones, you know, not even a hard man, but someone people can hate. You know, Robbie Savage or Craig Bellamy or you know, I mean, you know, we had a few. We had a few. You know, we had Arnautovic was like a bit like a pantomime villain, really, for the opposition. Not really hard man, but he'd rather ride up the other team, and that was quite fun. And so I know exactly what you mean. And Julian just epitomised that hard man image.
But he was also, I mean, you know, I mean, in terms of his penalty taking and some of his set piece play. So he had that hard man thing about him, but he also he could lever a ball when he needed to.
Oh yeah,
and you want somebody, you know, if we ended up at a competition where it comes down to penalties, you can trust to take a penalty, and you know what I mean. You're not going to think, oh, maybe we should have chosen somebody else or what have you. With Julian Dix, there was very much you were surprised if he didn't score because the expectation was that from a penalty he was going to score. And from a set piece, he wasn't just going to sort of knock it to the closest person to him and try and do something fancy. He was going to hit it.
True.
And I liked that about his play.
No, it was true. He had just a wand of a left foot as well, wasn't he? It's like, you know, obviously we've had him on, and yeah, he's one of my idols. So it was just like, you know, amazing to talk to him and ask him questions like, you know, why he never warmed up.
Yeah,
he never even warmed up, did he? And I asked,
Yeah.
I was watching it back the other day. I asked that question, Julie. I said, I need to ask. You know, you never warmed up before a game. Well, no, I didn't need to. Didn't need to. Literally, his warm up. Again, this is going back to that sort of older era. His warm up was putting his. He had his. I think he used to say, it doesn't matter if it was raining or it was summer or winter. It'd always be a can of Coke, a Mars bar. He'd sit in the bath, a hot bath with his shorts on and his boots, and that was his warm up. And then he'd go and do what he was saying, 60-yard balls and stuff.
Yeah,
he did say that.
I run marathons and I've done a few ultra marathons, and you know, even though I've done a sort of running coaching thing, you know, and they teach you about warming people up, and you know, I'm awful at it if I'm being honest. You know, I mean, quite often before a marathon, I'll sit and have a bag of Monster Munch and a can of Coke, thinking, you know, I'm going to earn this, so I'm going to have it.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm going to earn it.
And then I wonder why I'm knackered at the end because
carbing up. Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah.
I think Harry tried to make him warm up, and he did it. And he said, okay, so he went out and warmed up, and he came back in. And he went, Harry, I've done my hamstring in. He went, what? Well, you made me go and warm. He said, I hadn't done it, but I wanted Harry to feel really, you know, crap by asking me to warm up. But yeah, I thought he was just great. I think I love him. I love him. And
exciting. Yeah.
You're right. He's just an exciting player, particularly from a not as particularly glamorous position as well, left back.
Yeah.
Top
and
man.
then my next centre back, I've got James Collins.
Oh, here we go. We're keeping this theme going. I like it.
Yeah.
This hard man theme.
Yeah, and again, similar story, but also he showed good leadership. You know, I suppose in some ways you could argue with the current, you know, injuries and so forth. You know, where the current team has started to lead goals. You know, in a way that if we're going to push Europe, we need to sort of stop doing, really, and it's often, I've heard it spoken about by a few people now. Is it because maybe Declan Rice hasn't been there to kind of take control of it, or kind of orchestrate it almost? And James Collins had that kind of almost orchestrating kind of role, but he also, I think, gave belief to the defence, around him, not just in a sort of shouty kind of, traditional centre-back sense, but he was quite an inspiring guy in many ways, and he had that about him.
Definitely.
And I think too, dare I say it, I think the James Collins that came back to the club was probably even better than James Collins that we had before he went off and came back.
I agree, totally. He came back as, he basically. I mean, Aston Villa. He was with Richard Dunn, and I think that really sort of, what's the word, molded him into he came back more of a West Ham player, chiseled, big beard, bald, and just had that old sort of veteran Alvin Martin-esque type, would throw his body on the line for the ball, and that's what we all respected, and that's why I think he became the cult hero that he was, to be honest.
And again, West Ham fans, we like a player that's proud to put on the shirt. He's going to give himself for the team. Like you say, whether it's putting his body on the line or whatever it is, he's going to come out and play for us. It's not, this isn't just a job to this person. They're passionate about it, and I think you got that with James Collins in buckets.
Definitely. All right, we'll put Ginger Pele in then. Okay, who's next? Chris?
So my next centre back, a bit controversial here, but I'm going to go for Slaven Bilic.
No, I don't think it's controversial.
I think Slaven Bilic is probably one of the better centre backs we've had, really. And all right, he was only with us for a short time, but the fact that he could have he could have gone to Everton sooner than he did. He didn't. He wanted to see us through that sort of relegation battle, in that sort of 96, 97 sort of period. But again, determination, drive, proud to play for the team while he was playing for us and so forth. And, in some ways, like James Collins, he's another comeback king. All right, he came back as manager rather than back as player. But I liked him as manager. I liked Slaven Bilic as manager as well. And the fact that he'd been a West Ham player, that he'd been, I suppose as well, when I started sort of playing football and so forth, I used to play in defence. I mean, we're talking, kids mucking about in the street or whatever, or down the local park or whatever. And Slaven Bilic was the player I wanted to be. I wasn't, because I was rubbish, but he was one of my heroes at the time.
And I think he was, he was just a cool person. He liked his rock music, and he was, a little bit different as well. And he was just a cool person. And as you said, he went to Everton and and I'm sure he probably almost regrets that. I think a little bit, but I totally agree. It was great. I mean, he was probably the perfect manager to have back for that last season at the Bowling. And Julian obviously is your number 2, and I never thought we made enough of that.
Yeah.
The fact was Julian Dix was on the, Julian Dix, a club legend, was on the coach. It was almost like not an afterthought, but it was like a supporting act.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably how Julian likes to keep it, to be honest. But Slav, top guy, and you can tell he loved the club. And again, we like players who love the club. And
there's a humility, I think, about Bilic.
Yes,
and I like that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we'll put Bilic in. Right back then.
So right back, I thought long and hard about this, because if I'm being honest, there hasn't really been a dearth of stand right back to choose from. I'm going to go for Steve Potts, quite simply because, again, that period when I first started watching West Ham, a bit like Ludek McCloskey, he was there. He was always there, and I did, and quite versatile. I mean, could play right back, could play centre back. It's good to have that versatility. I'm almost tempted. I'll go for Steve Potts. I was almost tempted to go for Safal because I think he's probably one of the best right backs we've had for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that he wants to play for the club. I loved when we started on that winning streak, and we had that where we drew rather than lost. I think we were playing Man City, and I don't know if you remember the image of him, but he was just sort of almost sat there on the floor, almost in tears over a lead.
Yeah.
Now, that's someone who loves his club,
Yeah.
and there was that picture that was doing the rounds on social media where, you've got this footballer who's being paid whatever he's being paid, none of my business. But, and he's in the queue for the bus like everyone else.
Yeah.
He's not in a limo. He's not in in his big Chelsea tractor or whatever. He's there as a young mum, and there he is just on his mobile phone waiting for a bus. And, so I like Keith. I think Sufal's a West Ham player. He's the sort of player we like. But I'm going to go for Steve Potts just because of the era he was playing in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, just the fact how many games he's played for the club as well. He was, and just the longevity, obviously he's still involved with the club, still involved in the 23s. And, he's a living legend, isn't he? He really is. We haven't got many of them, and particularly ones that are still around, unfortunately. And Potts is one of them for sure. I think he's great. Absolutely great. Lovely guy. As you said, very versatile, which he needed to be. And yeah, I mean, I when I was young, me and my mate Tom Taylor, we started up the Steve Potts Appreciation Society. Unfortunately, there was only two of us as members. But I thought he was great. I love Potsy. 6 inches taller, he would have been England international.
Yeah,
without doubt. Right. Okay, that's a solid back four. Right, let's go into midfield then. Chris, who are we starting with?
So we'll go with left wing first.
Go on then.
I hope this isn't too cliche, but I'm going to have to go for Dimitri Payet.
Sure.
I just loved watching Payet play. To see. I mean, he could hit it from one side, hit it from the other. You never know what he was going to do next.
No.
And some of those set piece goals were just absolutely amazing. And watching someone do that in a West Ham shirt, it gave you belief again that we might go places, or what I mean. We had some. We didn't. It wasn't just gonna. It didn't have to all just be about survival. We could show a bit of flair as well. And I just loved watching Payet play. I don't know if you saw. Was it 2-3 weeks ago? You may have seen the clip of the free kick he scored for Marseille.
Still doing it, still doing
what he does. I mean, he's got a sort of dodgy haircut going on now, hasn't he? But and I was really sorry about how his time at the club ended. Really, and of course, every transfer window we seem to get linked back to him or over the gossip mill, don't we? It's absolute rubbish, isn't it? I mean, but yeah, Payet, what a player, and and at the time, it was quite a special time in my life, and that was one of the highlights, really, from a footballing point of view, was watching.
He was. I mean, he was a magician, wasn't he? He really was, and he brought a lot of joy to people. And again, we talk about Bilic and Bilic and Payet together. Just that last season, very rare. Obviously, being a fan, very similar amount of time with me, being a Christian. It very rarely all plays out at the same time for West Ham.
That's it.
But that time was the right manager, the right player, the right bond for the last season. And he'll always, doesn't matter how people think about him. I mean, I think people's not resentment, but I think people's angst towards him has somewhat diminished over the years. It's been 5 years or so since he left. And people will remember about the memories now and forget about how he left. He was
and goals like that one, the one at Old Trafford when we drew 1-1. I mean, that was special, wasn't it? That really was.
It really was. Right. Okay, Dimmy's in. Who's next then, Chris?
So we'll go. So my midfield, my centre midfield, I split those into a sort of central and a defensive midfielder.
Nice.
Midfielder, I'm going to go for Declan Rice. I like the fact that even though he's been sidelined with injury or what have you, he's still there watching.
Yeah.
And the passion that he's showing, and and it's almost like he's almost trying to get some passion from the stands, and I like the banter he has with the lads, and it's just a good feeling. And lots said about will he stay, will he go? I don't know, but I think whatever happens, that we've had him at West Ham for as long as we do or don't is special, because he's a very special player, and quite a linchpin player, and yeah, and again, almost that. I mean, okay, he came through sort of the Chelsea sort of system originally, but he's almost that sort of traditional West Ham kind of almost like an academy player, isn't he?
Yes, I know what you mean.
Come through the ranks or what have you. Yeah.
I mean, 14. I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much. Now they take kids at 8, don't they? But it's. I know what you mean about Declan Rice, and I think I think one of the reasons why I think we take to him quite well is he has that. We've spoken about it for a lot of the other players. He has that old school mentality about him. I think he's very much an old head in a young man's body in terms of team spirit, leadership, all these things which are really, really. I mean, leadership as a character. As a characterism, rather, is very, very rare in the English game with the young kids.
Yeah.
And he stands out because he's got some leadership about him. He's got presence, and the fact he's 21, 22, captain the side when Mark's in it. No one bats an eyelid. No one bats an eyelid. Do you know what I mean? And you're right. And I love the fact. I think it was the first game he was injured, and it was like he was doing Twitter commentary. He was on Twitter, just like literally, like, oh my god, look at this goal. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. And it's that sort of little bit behind the fourth wall, drawing the curtain back and seeing when he was sort of saying, oh yeah, Jesse does this in training all the time, and all that type of thing. And that's what we want to see, because it shows personality, and
it gives some humanity back to the game. It makes them makes them real again, doesn't it?
Totally. And I think I think we'll have him for longer than people think we're going to have him for.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think you're right, and I hope so, because what I see is not a player who's looking out. When you see the images, when the camera pans over to him or what have you, or you see his Twitter, you're not really seeing signs of a player who's looking to see if the grass is greener, are you? You're seeing somebody who's got a mind on what's happening here, in the here and now.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. And as you said, there's like a career roadmap really in front of him. Knowing that Mark's got a season left, and then part of me wishes we still had those turrets, those big turrets at Upton, because he could have had the keys to them, like literally the keys to the castle, and they could have like the ceremonial passing the torch, like passing the keys over, like maybe a big key, like key to the city type thing, key to the turrets, and he's played. I think 140 games or something ridiculous like that. He's played, and he could. He could surpass them. He could surpass the top boys at this rate. So who knows?
And I think, I'm a big Mark Noble fan, and I think that there's some sort of continuation or legacy from when Noble does hang up his boots or whatever, or go into a coaching role or whatever he does. The fact that you've got Declan Rice almost as a continuity, I think is got to be a good thing, hasn't it? But,
Totally. Right. Okay. So we'll put Pyatt. We've got Declan Rice. Who's next?
So just in front of Declan Rice, I'm going to put Joe Cole.
Nice.
Joe Cole is probably one of my favourite all-time West Ham players. Really, I loved watching him play as well. And you look back at that team, and you sometimes think, God, if we'd have kept some of those players, I wonder where we'd gone. Because we did produce some talent, didn't we? Or we fostered some talent, and Joe Cole, and I've put him centre because although I think was it Chelsea that he sort of tried to move over to the wing a bit more, or whatever. But I always thought Joe Cole was at his best when he played in a central role.
Yeah, I totally agree.
No, it was England. It was Ericsson when he went to England.
No, yeah. It's sort of all like it seemed as soon as he went to Chelsea, he then Mourinho sort of pushed him onto the left a little bit more, and then because of that, that's where England saw him because he was playing football there. But I totally agree. He was most Joe Cole-ish when he was playing for West Ham, I think.
And his confidence seemed better then as well. He seemed more confident down that central role. And just again, a very special player, quite pacey, but also intelligent with it. So it wasn't just a case of I'm going to see what happens. He seemed to be trying to read the game, which was quite special. And I think like you said with Declan Rice, there were times when Joe Cole looked like an older man's head on some young shoulders. And again,
I was going to say similar to Declan Rice. I mean, Joe when he captained the side the season we went down, he was probably only about 22 as well. And not only was he captaining a side, he was captaining a side which was not performing well. And that was probably Joe's best season really, because he was tracking back, he was tackling, he was trying to be the complete midfielder and just trying to do it all himself. And but yeah, I mean, I remember watching an interview with him, and he said that he was always a street footballer at heart. And to me, the only time he was ever exhibiting those traits was when he was at West Ham, because he was doing the flicks and the tricks. And so vis-a-vis, that was when he was most himself. So but it must have been tough. Hopefully we'll have him on in a maybe not soonish, and I'd love to ask him about that pressure, because I mean we knew about him when he was 12. And it's just like, it doesn't matter what you say as a kid. I don't feel the pressure. You must have felt the pressure. It must have been so much pressure. Okay, we got Payet, we got Rice, we got Joe Cole. Who's next?
So on the right wing, we've got Trevor Sinclair.
Tricky Trev.
Yeah.
There's our retweet. Well done, Chris.
I liked his versatility.
Yeah.
I liked his trickery. There were times when he was pacey. There were times when you didn't know he was going to do next. And I like that. And there was also a special time where, I mean, I'm going to offend some people now, but if I'm being honest, I don't really watch much international England games, because
Me neither.
I find them quite dull, if I'm being honest. But there was a point when we had the 2002 World Cup going on, and Trevor Sinclair was in the team, and it was like we had somebody who at the time was currently playing for West Ham, not had played for West Ham or would go on to play for West Ham. He was playing for West Ham, and he, okay, we got beat by Brazil, but there was a West Ham player playing in a World Cup quarter-final, and all the connotations, and you start thinking of 1966 and all that sort of stuff, where you've got West Ham players inside and that. And I thought he had quite a good competition actually, watching him, and some of Trevor Sinclair's link up with who I've got up front as well. I think if you're going to have one of them in the team, you've got to have the other, which is why I've also gone for Trevor Sinclair.
Yeah, and I know, and also I think we've been very fortunate to interview lots of players, lots of ex-players, and they all talk about their love for the club and how much they still love the club and still look out for the club and stuff like that. Trevor Sinclair, I always say it because he'll beat me up. No, because he honestly adored his time at West Ham. He adores West Ham. Yeah. He really, really, really loves the club, and it's I always, again, it takes me back a little bit, because maybe not tainted, but maybe my perception of footballers is now they see it as a career, as you mentioned, like not as a passion but as a career. So you assume a lot of players may play for 4 or 5 clubs in their career at least. But he did play for Man City, he did play for QPR. He still talks so highly about his time at West Ham, and absolute fan. And it was part of he was part of a great era, as you said. You probably, I probably know you're going to put up front, but him and obviously, you probably put up Florian Radachoy. So, you know what I mean. So that era with Neil Ruddock and Ian Wright and just a real. That was the best. That was the best. I love that period under Harry. I really, really did. Right, so puts it tricky, Trevor. Right up front, who's your first forward then?
Yeah, you can guess Paulo Di Canio. I thought Paulo Di Canio was the best forward I think I've seen in my lifetime play for West Ham, and and we've had some great forwards, but I think Paulo Di Canio. I mean, and he was just that fine line between bonkers and genius. Unpredictable, and of course, West Ham took him on a risk, didn't they? And at the time, I mean, obviously, if I had 1.8 million pounds in my back pocket, that'd be very nice. Thank you very much. 1.5,
lovely, yeah.
very nice. Thank you very much. But in terms of footballing terms, that ain't a lot of money. 1.5 million, and Harry Redknapp took a chance on him, didn't he? And just loved watching Paolo Di Canio play. Just loved the passion, the flair, the unpredictability. Just a very special time, as you said. Some of the players that we had, and some of those goals. I mean, there's the Wimbledon goal that obviously Sinclair set him up for, and then he did the sort of flying volley, didn't he? But But also that one, when he was, we were talking about street football earlier. when he was playing, when they were playing Chelsea, and he set himself up almost like kids playing heads and balls.
Yeah.
Where he's flipped it up with one foot and then just absolutely whacked it in.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember exactly how far it was. It was outside the box, wasn't it, when he picked it up? And
Yeah.
But it was like watching kids play heads and balls. That same sort of brilliant. And I always wanted to meet Di Canio. I never got to. But when I first went into army chaplaincy, I was a reservist originally before I went full time, and so I was a parish priest, and then weekends or what have you, I do my army reserve stuff. And there was a time when for 3 years I was a team vicar in Swindon.
Yeah.
And the county ground was in parish. So technically, Paolo Di Canio would have been one of my parishioners. and occasionally you'd walk around the parish and you would bump into. I mean, I didn't know many of them, but you'd bump into sort of Swindon town players, or whatever. And I always thought, and he was there after my time. But I always thought, gosh, if we'd have been there at the same time, would I have bumped into him or whatever? That'd be quite. But he was quite a conundrum, wasn't he? Because he could be quite a greedy player, as I think Chris Akabusi said that when you had him on your show.
He did.
He was very much, and there was that famous tussle up he had with Lampard over who was going to take the set piece and all the rest of it. But he had that sportsmanship about him as well. The famous incident where the Everton keeper's on the floor. Was it twisted knee or whatever?
Yeah.
And he catches the ball So quite a complex character.
He is. Yeah.
What an exciting player to watch, and what some goals.
Well, I mean, I think being on that sort of edge between crazy and genius. Or madman and genius, we'll say, really endeared himself to West Ham fans because it was the unpredictability. And West Ham, until arguably this year, to be honest, are an unpredictable club. We know we're going to, and ironically, we've flipped what we've done. We usually play well against the top 6 and rubbish against the bottom 13, but this year it's different, which makes more sense because there's more of them in the bottom 13 than there is in the top 6. And Paolo sort of exemplified that, I thought, more than anyone. You didn't know who was interviewing. It might have been David James or someone. He spoke about Freddie Canute, saying it depends about. He was an amazing player, but it depended about what side of the bed he woke up on. Whether you're going to get, and that's like Paolo. He could have been. You could go to that, and that's why he was excited. You'd go to Upton Park and you go, right, what Paolo is turning up today? And sometimes, as you said, that when he wrestled the ball, that was a cacophony of, it's a long word, but a cacophony of all the Paolo Di Canios. It was it was send me off, Harry. I'm going to sit on the ball. No, I want the goal. I'm going to be mesmeric. I'm going to win the match on my own. And that's what I mean about missing personalities in football. There was lots of them. There was Paolo Di Canio, or you'd go and get someone like. Maybe a hard man like Roy Keane or Patrick Vieira, or that's everyone had their own facets, and Paolo was just Paolo, and there was a reason why he became a Premier League great. Although not voted, although he's not in the Premier League 25 Hall of Fame.
No,
people can pick. I don't know. He's not.
Was the goal against Wimbledon? Was that ever in the sort of top 10 Premier League goals ever?
I think that was one of the top, if not one of the top. I think Rooney's against the Rooney one as well was up there, but But yeah, he's not in the top 25, which I think is really, really interesting. How he hasn't been included. He might go in the next batch, but yeah, various others are, but not
unpredictability. And West Ham. I mean, that's one of the things I love about being a West Ham fan. I mean, wouldn't be life boring if you were a Man City fan? Let's be honest.
That's exactly my point. We missed the essence of being a West Ham fan if we won every week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even though obviously when we lost to Newcastle the other day, I mean the fact that this is the first time having lost to Newcastle and Chelsea, we've lost 2 games in a row all season. Yeah. We haven't done that all season, which is mental. And I mean that Newcastle game when it was like comedy of errors. I was getting texts, messages. Oh, thank God! Oh, we're back to normal. We're back to West Ham. They weren't really pissed off by watching the go. Although it was there was the speed bump that we knew was gonna the bump in the road, the dead end. But and that's why we support them. I think if we were Man City and winning everything, you would miss that identity of being a West Ham fan. As I said before, our big war song is about things fading and dying. So we've already set our stall out.
Yeah, and it's that sort of blend of optimism and cynicism. We're going to do this. Oh well, maybe next year.
Yeah, and that's exactly me. Literally, it'd be like we'd lost the game, or we just scraped relegation, and then for some reason, come August, right, we're going to win the league this year. And then about 3 games in, go, oh God, and you come home and I unseries links match of the day, and my wife knows we've lost because I've done that. And then Sunday I read the papers, and then Monday I'll be like, right, who we got the weekend? It's gonna change this week. It's gonna change, and it's that you're right. It's that sort of that optimism and cynicism. It's like a fine balance, but it's a combination only West Ham fans have got. Because I mean, look at how Arsenal fans have reacted this season. That it's just all cynicism. There's no optimism there. They haven't got that sort of that flip side. No, I love it. And Paolo epitomised that for a player. Right, so we've got one more spot left, Chris. Who are we going to have?
So I thought hard about this one. I nearly went because I just liked him. I nearly went for Carlton Cole, but I'm going to go for Carlos Tevez because again, all right, controversial circumstances and all that, but some of the passion and some of the flair that he brought in, and some of the belief when we're in that relegation fight that we were in, and it needed something special, didn't it, or someone special, and part of was thinking, how on earth have we ended up with 2 Argentinian world class players at West Ham, and you almost thought, is this for real? Seeing him, West Ham shirt with Tevez on the back. And although he only played a short number of games for us, scored some pretty special goals. A lot has been said comparing Lingard to Payet, but actually, I sometimes compare him to Tevez because he brought something else to the party, mixed it up a little bit, brought a little bit of passion, brought a little bit of energy. And excitement that people can get behind, the team can get behind, that kind of gels people, and I think Tevez did that in quite what was quite a difficult season for West Ham, and
very much so.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Tevez.
And you're right. In theory, he only really turned up, to be fair, in about the last six or 7 games, really. But he made a massive contribution, and it was funny. Because we're doing this Noble era thing where we're sort of going around and going through all the players that Mark Noble's played with, and there's that 200 odd. And we released M the other day, and I got a text from someone goes, "Oh, you've missed someone out," and I was like, "Oh my God, who we missed?" And he went Javier Mascherano, and I went, "Oh, I could have," but I looked through it, and we hadn't missed him out. And I forgot that I was like, Mascherano's only played 7 games for us. 7 games this boy played for us, and obviously none of them with Mark Noble. Hence, why he's not included. So we were right in our I was like, oh no. But obviously with Tevez it was slightly different. But yeah, he how many games did Carlos Tevez play? Carlos Tevez only played. He played quite a few. He played 29 games for us.
Really?
I thought I thought he played less than that. He played 26 games in the Premier League, 2 in the UEFA Cup. Oh yeah, Palmero, yeah, and 1 in the FA Cup, which we Well, there we go. You see, we're always learning in this channel. So yes, Carlitos almost 30 games. That's really surprised me actually. And there's the team. There's the team, Father Chris.
Oh, brilliant! There we are. Brilliant.
There we go. I think that back four is strong. I don't know how many we're playing in the VAR world we live in now, but they would do a job. Forget the greedy 6. This would be Champions League straight away with that team, straight away. And we'll put Carlton on the bench to bring him on.
Yeah.
Because if not, he'll kick up a fuss. We love him really. We love him really, friend of the channel. Anyway, Chris, man, it's been lovely, Father Chris, chatting to you.
Been a privilege to be on.
Literally an hour has flown by. It really, really has, man. So thank you, and good luck with everything else that goes back, and obviously with all the stuff with the army. I don't know how to explain it, but obviously the army stuff. Hope it goes well.
Thanks, Russ. I really appreciate it, and really, again, thanks for having me on the show. It's been a real privilege, and I've really enjoyed chatting.
Good, me too, man. And obviously, thanks everyone for listening. And hopefully, have a nice bank holiday as well, everybody, because this is going on the Sunday. So have a nice bank holiday. For myself and from Father Chris, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jabs when you get your appointments. I've got my one booked for next week. My second jab. I'm all done. I'll be all done by next week. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Much love. Bye.